we had dreams, but for 2 years, from 1925, I bought the Modern Library in 1925. I'd been in Liverites from the spring of 1923 to the spring of 1925, exactly 2 years. And I bought the Modern Library the night I sailed to Europe. I think it was my birthday. It was May 25th, 1925. Now, I had begun meeting people. I knew all the Liverite authors. And on the boat going over in the Aquitania, I told you Dick Simon was on the boat. He was now...
Well, what did he think of this purchase? I mean, you must have discussed it with him.
So he did. He and Schuster tried to buy it from us right away. And now, at this time, I began getting restless. I had been there 2 years. And Dick Simon had made a success. Simon and Schuster brought out the Story of Philosophy by Durant, and the great first successes were the crossword puzzle books, which were huge successes, and they were on their way. They had started with a bang. And here I was working for Horace Liverite, and feeling it was high time I got going for myself, and my eye was on that Modern Library, because I loved it.
You'd always taken an interest in it.
I'd always taken an interest in it. And it was a stepchild around Liverites. As I told you, at the last minute they'd say, hey, we got to get a new title for the Modern Library. And I began suggesting titles. Very often they would do what I wanted. Well, I had never been to Europe. In about April 1925, I decided I was going to make my first trip to Europe. And with Liverite's permission, I booked passage on the Aquitania and persuaded Dick Simon to take his vacation at the same time. He took the Aquitania too. But
did Liverite pay for this trip?
oh no, this was nothing to do with business. I was going on a vacation, my first trip abroad. The day I was to sail, the boat was sailing at 10 o'clock that night. Horace Liverite took me to lunch, to give me a farewell luncheon before I went to Europe. And we ate at a speakeasy called Jack and Charlie's, which is, of course, now 21. Yes, it was then on 49th Street. And the reason I remember all this so clearly is it was a very important day in my life, because at lunch, Horace obviously had had one or two drinks before we went out. And this was unusual about Horace. He was not a drunk. A few drinks would stimulate him, exhilarate him, and he didn't hold his liquor too well. And the minute we sat down to speak, he ordered another big drink for himself. And I said, what's the matter? You're a bundle of nerves. And he said, my father-in-law is driving me crazy. He said he comes out and gives me the third degree and wants me to account for where all the money is. Well, he said, you know as well as I do, I don't know where it is. And he said, oh, how I'd like to pay him off and get rid of him. So I blandly said, one very easy way to pay him off, Horace, sell me the Modern Library. I had suggested this to him 4 or 5 times. Every time I did, he threw me out of the office, because I said it was the greatest asset of the business. This time, instead of saying, oh, don't start that again, he looked at me rather feverishly and said, what will you give me for it? Well, the doors opened, and we started talking at lunch, and Horace began figuring out what he needed to get out and pay off his pressing debts. And he said, we'll go right back to the office. And he said, I'll call my lawyer. And I was leaving for Europe that night. And he said, now, there's no need for you to not to cancel your trip. Well, we went back to 48th Street, 1 block away, to the office. And I was delirious. And he called in his advisor and confidant, Miss Julian Messner, his oldest friend.
Yeah. And the salesman sort of.
He was the head of the sales department, and very nice man who absolutely worshipped Liverite. Liverite destroyed Messner's life because he used Messner as a sort of an office boy, and Messner was much too good a man for this, but it was another one of Liverite attracted people that way. Well, when Arthur Garfield Hayes and Julian Messner heard that Horace was going to sell me the Modern Library, they had a fit, absolute fit. They said, you idiot, this is the backbone of Bondi and Liverite. This is one of the great properties in the publishing business. What in God's name do you want to sell this for? And Liverite said, I'm the owner of this business, and he was this time reasonably drunk. And he said, this will get me out of all the hole I'm in. And he said, as a matter of fact, Macmillan are about to start a new series, which we had heard about, called the Modern Readers series. And he said, how can I compete with a great big firm like Macmillan? They'll put the Modern Library out of business in 2 years. He said, I'm selling at the top. He said, Bennett knows this. He's taking a chance. I warned him about this. He had. And Liverite said, anyway, I've given Bennett my word. I don't break my word. So they started arguing with him that he hadn't given his word. The deal had just been talked about. And I began seeing my whole great coup going out the window. At this time, I had one of those strokes of luck that have spotted my life all the way through. Downstairs, there arrived one of the most famous literary agents in this country.
Who was that?
I won't tell you. With a gun in his pocket to shoot Liverite, because Liverite was having an affair with his wife, and he had found out about it. And he arrived to shoot Liverite. If you can imagine 10, 20, 30 melodrama. And the word came up that Mr. So-and-so was downstairs in a rage with a gun, pistol. And Liverite sent Julian Mester out to calm this man down. So my most vehement enemy at the moment, Julian Mester, had to go out to soothe the irate agent who was going to shoot Liverite, leaving only Arthur Garfield Hayes in the room with us. And after all, he was just a lawyer. And after a little while, he said, well, you're my client. He said, I've told you, I've given you my advice. He said, if you don't want to listen to it, to hell with you. And drew up a little piece of paper, which we both signed. Meanwhile, Messner was, and the agent were having a feud downstairs. And when last seen, the two of them were weaving down 48th Street, arm in arm, the agent having forgotten all about his plan to shoot Liverite.